Yo, the Phoenix Suns fall to the Boston Celtics. Can they finish strong and push for a higher seed in the playoffs? And the NFL free agency signing period has begun. Teams around the league have hit the ground running, including your Arizona Cardinals. Welcome back to your Valley Sports Plugs Heat Check podcast live. Today is Thursday, March 14th, 2024. I am your host, Chris Patrick, with my co-host, Michael Benjamin, and filling in for the injured VSP Tallman, Valley Sports Plug contributor Niko Woodruff. What is going on, fellas? How are you this evening?
Chris, Niko, what's going on, man? Little bit of a stinker in the second half for the Suns. You know, we got to talk about it. But for the people watching, my background's a little bit bare. I'm in the process of moving right now. Dude, and it feels like it's been a long time since we've done an actual live stream. But we did trivia last week. There's just so many moving pieces on my end. But I'm ready to get it done. Niko, how you doing today, man?
Boys, I am good. Coming off of Sasha Banks, a.k.a. Mercedes Moné, making her debut in AEW inside of that very TD arena. I was really hoping that the Suns would bring the pop that Miss Moné brought last night. Did not happen. We got popped in the mouth. Time to walk wicked high and wicked far away. Got to pull it together, Suns.
Yeah, I think that's the number one question is we kind of have been like on this 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of progression. Or I don't know, some nights it feels like 1 step forward and 2 steps back. I do want to just kind of step back a little bit, no pun intended. But it is funny, Mike, you mentioned we did the trivia last week. It seems like with sports and the year, the way the calendar works is it can go from there being not much of anything going on at all. Just a couple weeks ago, it was post All-Star break, nothing going on with the NFL offseason. Spring training was kind of just getting started up. And then within just a couple weeks span, now opening day is just 2 weeks away. NFL offseason is in full swing, about a month away from the draft. March Madness starts next week or 2 weeks from now. Selection Sunday is coming up this weekend. And, of course, the Phoenix Suns push for the playoffs now as we start thinking about that. And I think that's where we need to start. This game with the Suns and the Celtics, they dropped this one, 127-112, as you guys mentioned, in Boston. It sucks, man. It really sucks when you're at full strength too, right? We have the big three, Booker, Durant, and Beal all going, all ready to go. 47.5 isn't the worst field goal percentage. 35.5 from the three-point line. I'd like to see maybe fewer three-point shots. But when you look at the Celtics taking 50, just shooting a much higher percentage, I don't know. That's the new NBA, right, guys? I don't know. I just want to get your initial gut reaction, Mike, on what you thought of this game.
Oh, Chris, I know you said you didn't like how many it is. I hate how low of that total number is. The Suns need to be getting up 40 to 45 three-pointers a game. We have 2 of the top 5 guys in three-point percentage in Grayson Allen and Kevin Durant in the league. And you look at tonight, Kevin Durant only shoots 3. And when you're going up against a team in the Boston Celtics who normally average over 45, you got to keep pace. But the big story of the night, I mean, you can look at some of these numbers, right? The free throws were pretty much similar. I will say that they were letting Jaylen Brown just push off night in, like the whole night. Damn, it was crazy. But, you know, you got to tailor your game around it. If they're going to play physical, you got to come back and throw some punches. And the Suns didn't do that. And you look at the rebounds, we out-rebounded them. Huge on the offensive glass tonight as well with 19. Jusuf Nurkic just going to work and has been a monster on the boards. But it was a lack of perimeter defense in that third quarter specifically. You know, after the Suns took that early 8-point lead in the first quarter and the Celtics went on that 15-4 run to take the lead going into the second quarter, guys, I got to be honest. I don't know if I really had faith after that. Like, we couldn't get over the hump. We were just basically playing match for match. We couldn't get any stops. And then in that third quarter, all we did was just let Al Horford shoot the freaking lights out, not put hands on him, lose him in transition to the slowest guy on the floor. Like, before this game, yeah, it would have been really hard pressed for somebody to come up to me and be like, Mike, it's in tonight for the Suns going in Boston. And I would have been honest with you and said no, because the Boston Celtics are the best team in the NBA. Let's just be 100% honest with each other. But for that kind of a meltdown, for them to just have wide open shots in the third quarter, to just blow out and go to a 20-point lead before you know it, and then you don't have really any chance in the fourth quarter, those are always tough ones to see. I don't care who you're playing against, even the best team in the NBA. So real tough one tonight, man. But we got to bounce back right away against Charlotte and really put our foot on their throats and just get that kind of a win, because this is what this team is in dire need of right now.
And I agree to that extent as far as needing to take the hammer to the Hornets. I mean, when you contrast going up against the best team or one of the best teams in the Celtics, worst case, they're one of the best teams, to going against, I think, one of the worst teams in the Hornets. They were kind of trying to purge at the trade deadline, it seemed like. But regardless, I want to push back a little bit on the 3-point shooting, Mike, because I do think that's a little high when your percentage is so low. Because, what's the old expression, right? You live and you die by the 3. What I'm seeing here is that we were dying by the 3. Now maybe take it inside, but we made 10 more field goals than them, so that didn't work. Honestly, you might be right now that I'm thinking about this in live time. But Niko, okay, you be the deciding voice here. Is 3-pointers too many in this game, or too few?
With the weapons that we have, I think it's too few. I don't think you look at this roster and I expect them to put up 40 to 45, 50 3-pointers a game. Just looking at who we have. The more concerning note to me on this is these rebounds. We should never out-rebound somebody by 20 boards or so and then lose the game. I have a hard time with that one. That's my crux in this. But I err on the side of I think we needed to shoot the 3 more. We're not a get down low and bang team. I don't think we're I think we're making our money off our jump shots. So,
yeah, and I do agree as far as it goes. What you're saying with the weapons, we do have the weapons, but how reliable are they? I guess everyone has a bad night, right? I mean, and against a good team like the Celtics, I think we can chalk it up to that. But how they're going to do going forward, I think, is going to be huge. But Mike, them being at full strength, and even though it is one of the best teams, that's what we're going to be facing in the playoffs, in theory, right? Are the best teams. And potentially, if we have aspirations of a finals appearance, it could be against this Celtics team. Do you think tonight was just a one-off and they could take them in a series? Or would it be like this would just be a sweep situation?
When you have those 3 type of caliber players, and Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal in a 7-game series, they're going to be able to scratch one out, because you might have one where Book and KD both go for 40, right? So you should be able to take one. But overall, from a whole team aspect, this team can't compete with the Boston Celtics. That's just the truth. I mean, Boston is one of the best defensive teams in the league. They also are just a powerhouse at home. I think they've only lost 3 games in TD Garden this year. So court advantage going up against one of the best home teams in the league, you lose that series. Like it's just what it is. And the Suns, yes, they're at full strength with their big 3. They were missing Eric Gordon tonight, but guys, we know he has been struggling as well. My goodness. And the rotations are still in flux. Like all of a sudden, Ish Wainwright is getting minutes in the second quarter. Like for a guy who wasn't on a team 2 weeks ago to getting minutes against one of the best teams. And these are becoming matchups that are almost must win for the Phoenix Suns, because I'm kind of scared if they're in that play-in tournament. And that would be, if your team is in the play-in tournament at all, I think anybody should be scared, because normally it's a 1 loss and you're going home kind of scenario. And that's not where I want to be when it comes down to the playoffs. But not enough production from the bench once again. I think all 3 of the big 3, they shot okay today, but like I said, mostly from the perimeter. KD was 9 of 19, Beal was 9 of 17, Booker was 9 of 20. Book was only 1 of 6 from 3. Beal had 2 threes and KD had 1. But then we're not getting any production from the bench, either than Bol, who comes in, drops 10 points right away, but then only plays 15 minutes. Like, why are we not giving the hot hand some more minutes to continue their momentum moving forward? And I'm kind of scared, guys, with Royce O'Neal, to be honest with you, because I'm getting a lot of Jay Crowder vibes where, oh man, he goes hot, goes crazy, has a nice 20-10 game, and then there's the offers. And we've seen a bunch. And tonight he was 0 for 7. So with where this team is at, we have to have contributions, and it can't just be we need Grayson Allen to score 24 points every night. Like, we're going to need Eric Gordon to score 15. We're going to need Royce O'Neal to score 15 a night for this team to be competitive, in especially when it comes down to the playoffs, a tough Western Conference.
I'm glad you brought up Royce O'Neal. Like that Jay Crowder comparison is actually perfect, because you're right. He has been streaky in that sense. And it's crazy. Like, even I was also going to bring up Bull. I remember watching a play at halftime that they were showing where Bull took a shot, or took a shovel pass, kicked it out to Royce O'Neal. Royce O'Neal misses a three, bounces off the back of the rim. Bull secures the rebound and manages to put it back up and in, if I remember correctly. But yeah, watching Royce O'Neal brick and go over is tough, because it's not really what we expected. And if someone like him is going to come in and be getting significant minutes, you would expect him to contribute. I do worry though, because of just how heavily we lean on our big three. Like, that's my biggest thing is with Beal, Durant, and Booker, when they're all three out there, it seems like when it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's ugly. And that's not even mentioning the fact that when one of them is out, they continue to struggle. And yeah, Beal can step up and do some scoring when Booker's out, but he also seems to have shades of Eric Bledsoe when Durant and Booker are out there. I mean, Beal is just head down, driving to the basket so often. I'm just like, I'm having like PTSD of going to those games and screaming my lungs out from the upper deck, just asking Eric Bledsoe to kick it or do anything else. And I hate that so much. But it's honestly, is that what Frank Vogel is asking Beal to do when he's out there? It's like, well, it's one of you three guys. And so he's looking around, he's like, well, the other two are on the bench, so it's me. And I don't know, Niko, is that crazy to think that the directive could be Beal go out there and play 1-on-5?
I mean, I feel like that is nuts. I feel like anytime, even when it's like KD, when you go play 1 versus 5, it's never linking up for like a good scenario. I've noticed it too. I don't know. There's nothing that drives me crazy more than somebody putting their head down, dribbling with the basketball, and not looking up until they're inches from the backboard. I don't know. I've always been taught to dribble with my head up and try to find the passing lane. And the fact that like somehow in these AAU camps, this is just going uncoached to the point where like we're now in the pros, and like Bradley Beal is, well, fuck it. I'm just going to put my head down and I'm going to go. I don't care if Bobo's in the corner wide open, or I don't care if so-and-so's, Bradley Beal is my biggest stink pot on this team this year. And it's been unfortunately due to injuries and lack of production, but like I don't know. For what we expected, we have not got our money's worth or our expectations worth, and we didn't even give up that much to get the dude. And I still don't think we won that trade at the end of the day. So I don't know, man. And this could be just all doom and gloom, like jaded Arizona sports fan coming out, but like this team has the fixins to lose in the play-in tournament very quickly. This team has the fixins to not make the playoffs, period. If we don't beat San Antonio, if we don't beat Houston, if we don't beat Atlanta, if we don't beat Charlotte, like there are some easy games coming up that we have to win.
Yeah, I do want to bring up that schedule because I could see us going on a 4-game streak, and there's even a couple other winnable games in there. Yeah, so let's go ahead. I do have another question that I want to ask you guys, maybe a bit hypothetical, but while we're talking about the schedule, I mean, just looking at these upcoming games, we have the Hornets, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Hawks, the Spurs, the Nuggets, the Thunder, the Pelicans, and the Cavaliers. Jesus. So Mike pulled up the schedule here for us. I see a lot, like, I mean, you say, Niko, I see a lot of winnable games here. I mean, guys, maybe we can just go game by game real quick, make our quick predictions, maybe just for the left column. But the Hornets game, I see that as an absolute dub. Mike, you already kind of touched on that. Like, you expect, like, that's the bounce back game, right?
Yeah, it should be. But here's the thing with this team right now, right? The should-bes are always, we're still clenching our buttholes as tight as we possibly can to fight through these fourth quarters. I mean, you could just think back a couple of games ago. The Toronto within 5 points in the fourth quarter against us, especially with the amount of guys that they had out. No Scotty Barnes, who's their main piece, no Jakob Poeltl, and they compete. And then the same thing with Cleveland. I know it's in Cleveland, but no Donovan Mitchell, where they were bringing up some of his stats in regard to, what Cleveland is when he is in and out of the lineup. And I think they were like 9-19 when he's out. Double check my math there, people. But for them to be, it was a tight game the entire fourth quarter, where I know it's a every kind of night situation with the NBA where guys can put it together and figure things out. But this team just doesn't put their foot down on anybody, it seems like, especially after the All-Star break. It's fight and barely claw and teeth their way through fourth quarters. And we know that it's been a struggle of a fourth quarter this entire season. But Charlotte's so bad. They're such a dumpster fire. It should be a 15-point lead going into this second half, and they should basically kind of have a good space throughout there. And then even like you look at the Bucks have been struggling as well. That's a game that this team, if they want to compete in the playoffs, need to go on the road and get a W in Milwaukee, because we're running out of matchups where I really have faith that they can win these games, guys. Like that's really where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. We kind of have been playing down or up to the quality of our opponents all season long. Charlotte has to win. Milwaukee, that's a statement game if we win. The Sixers, I mean, I don't know. It's the Sixers. They could come out and snap you, or we could lose that game or we could win that game by 20 points. But I will say, like, we haven't beat San Antonio all season long. I would love to beat San Antonio. I don't know, these next two games in San Antonio, like, I don't know. It's when you look at the schedule, it's frustrating because you go, that should be a win. But like Mike said, we'll literally be clenching our butthole through the entire fucking game, waiting for the Suns to step on the gas pedal, and they'll just slightly apply pressure.
Well, and the last 10 games are literally all against people who are in the playoffs and above us in the standings. Like, it's great competition. It's great matchups to see where you're at. But then it also scares you, because if the Suns go 5-5 in those games, I'd honestly be surprised. Like, I just would be surprised at this point, the way that this team is playing. And that San Antonio, those back-to-backs, that's giving me hard Houston flashbacks right now. Like, yeah. I am very, very scared of those two games, especially the way that Victor Wembanyama played against us in the back-to-backs here in Phoenix. These are lots of traps coming up for the Suns, man.
Well, didn't the Spurs take one of those games against us?
They took both of them.
Both. Yeah, we haven't beat them.
We went to.
I
think we went to the second one for Nico's bachelor party, and we were down by like 25 within the first 10 minutes of that game.
Yeah, it was rough.
They came back, and then they fell apart in the fourth quarter, which. Who knew that was going to be the theme of the entire season, man?
Incredible. Okay, so Beal, was it Beal or no Beal? That was no Beal time, right?
That was no Beal time, because that was early. Okay. That was, I think, November 2nd. Yeah.
Everything's different now. It's a whole different roster. We're past the trade deadline. The Spurs have secured themselves as one of the worst teams in the league. I agree. That should absolutely be a pair of dubs right there. I honestly think we should beat the Hawks as well. That team is in turmoil, trying to struggling to find an identity. Yeah, they have some good pieces, but when we're supposed to be the well put together championship contending team, that's a game where we need to win it to prove that we are that and they are not. The 76ers don't scare me as much without Joel Embiid, who's been out for several weeks now. Very much of a detriment to my fantasy basketball team. That aside, the Bucks are also an interesting one. Since Doc Rivers has come in, they haven't exactly been going gangbusters or anything. They are going to squeak out a win against the 76ers tonight. But I don't really see the Bucks as too much of a threat. So that's a very winnable game too. So honestly, guys, like I do see them winning 4 straight, at least from the 76ers and those 2 Spurs games. But that big Bucks game, that's a chance for them to really start a good stretch of getting wins under their belt and then taking that momentum into a pretty tough stretch, because it seems like it's nothing but challenges after that. You got the Nuggets, the Thunder, even the Pelicans can put up a fight. I know we beat them recently. The Cavaliers, I don't think Donovan Mitchell was healthy the last time we played them, so that could be a bit of a different situation. Timberwolves are obviously toying with the top of the West. Pelicans again, Clippers twice. Niko thinks they are a championship contender, and that is absolutely fair. And then Kings, Timberwolves again. I mean, crazy stretch the rest of the way there. I don't really know how.
So, but here's the truth of the matter right now, guys. If you look at the standings after tonight's loss, the Suns dropped to 8th, right? But between 6th and 7th, we're tied right now with Dallas, 8 games back. Sacramento is 7.5, so we're a half game back. And then we're a game and a half back from the 5th spot. So there's still a lot of movement that can happen. Our schedule is not conducive enough for us to go on a huge winning streak, it seems like, where you could jump from 8th to pushing for 4th, to be honest with you. Like, I don't see an 8-game winning streak within here. I'd love to, but we just got to be honest with ourselves. But the other truth of the matter, the fact is, Houston, that's at the 11th spot, is 15 games back, and they're technically 7 games back from us. The Phoenix Suns are going to make the playoffs, right? And now, do you really consider the play-in the true playoffs? I don't. That's up for debate, but yes, technically it is. So they're going to be in the dance, but good Lord, this team is going to need the 5th or 6th seed. Obviously, home court advantage is probably out of the question at this point, but I don't want them in the play-in, man. That scares the absolute hell out of me.
I honestly, I'm glad you brought up the play-in, because that is absolutely something we need to avoid, in my humble opinion. I would much rather have a series than a 1-game, win or go home type of situation, especially with as competitive as the West is right now. I mean, honestly, Niko, though, do you look at that back half of the schedule in the right-hand column and honestly think that we can go at least 500 in that stretch?
No, I look at that and I realistically think
and that's bad.
Every game. Like, I don't see us winning any of these games. Even New Orleans. Like, what the?
New Orleans is playing better ball, but you have to take into a matter of fact now that Cat's out for Minnesota, right?
This is true.
So I think one of those games you should be able to scratch out against Minnesota. One of these Clippers games, you're just going to have to, like, we're at the point where they have to. If they want to instill any confidence in themselves, damn it, it's not even just for the fans. It's for themselves to think that they could go and compete in a 7-game series. They got to start winning some of these games. Like, they got to beat Oklahoma City when they go to OKC to get back for them after falling apart in the 4th quarter, Yeah, we did get the win in Denver. That'd be great to get another one, but you got to have a nice performance when Cleveland comes in here. Like, it's got to be better than what it was. And you got to take one out of New Orleans.
You do. You have to win these ones at home. And what I'm just thinking about here, and this is so sad, this is maybe a bit of a turn, but I see that we got the Clippers at home and then away. And so if we can at least get one of those games, you would think the game at home, right? But how sad is it? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. I think you've been to a few more games than me this season. But it just seems like we don't have a home court advantage. Like, the crowd is hype. They do get into it, but I don't know if that translates to on the court. And Grayson Allen's even made comments in press conferences and stuff where he's like, we need the crowd to stay with us, blah, 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 blah. I was at the recent Oklahoma City game where the Suns were actually being booed by the fans at Footprint Center at one point. So, like, the fans are definitely interacting, but obviously, we think back to the glory days of our finals run and how electric the stadium was in the environment when the Twins were getting into it. Booker was getting it. Ayton was playing good ball. Chris Paul was actually healthy and doing well. And it seemed like we did have a home court advantage. And this is my long-winded way of asking you, like, do you feel like the home court advantage is not there for the Suns?
I mean, no, it's never been there, right, Mike? I mean, like, this is Arizona sports. We show up because it's an event. There's a handful of us in the nosebleeds that scream our asses off and are here for the fun. But I don't know, dude. Look at the Cardinals. We can't cultivate a football fan base. We can't cultivate a basketball fan base. I think Arizona likes Cinderella stories. You know, like, hey, man, the Diamondbacks sucked for a long time. Now they're in the World Series, and everybody wants to go to a Diamondbacks game. Hey, man, the Suns sucked for a long time. Now they're in the finals. Everybody wants to go to a Suns game. It's just the thing to do, unfortunately. I don't know. Sorry, Mike. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you hit a lot of great points there. The biggest thing, guys, we know about this from Valley fans is there's a bit of fair weather nature when it comes to Valley fans. There's very few of us who actually grew up here and had our roots cemented within these teams, because we know Arizona is a huge transplant city, and a lot of these people who, when they grow up, take what their team was from their parents' side, right? Like, I was lucky. My dad almost kind of forced me to be a Suns fan because he had season tickets, and I was able to go and grow up around the Valley, and I was able to go to training camp in Flagstaff for the Cardinals. You know, obviously at a young age, you're there when the Diamondbacks win the 2001 World Series. But I'd say a bigger thing this year for this Phoenix Suns team is it's been too much of a roller coaster, guys. Like, there was hype going into the season because of the moves that they made, all of these 1-2 year deal guys who we thought were going to make a difference and really push this team over the top when it comes to bench play. And then you start the season, you don't have Bradley Beal, and you don't know when he's going to come, and you struggle to start. Well, then these guys come back, and then there goes Booker when Beal comes back. Okay, Book comes back. There goes KD. So it's literally just been, what are you going to get all year? It's hard to really get behind a team, even though you should, right? You're supposed to go when you're through the mud and you're going through the down times. I think people are just exhausted from what they've been getting from this Phoenix Suns team all season long, where you see the glimpses of what they thought and what James Jones put together for this team. And then you come out of the All-Star break, it's just been too much of this. And it was a lot of that last year, right? But wasn't it damn exhausting last year too? And it didn't seem like we had the same kind of juice the year before when we set a franchise record. So it's just kind of major carryover from last year. And man, it's so sad to say, but we're just never going to have that cohesive unit type of fan base like other teams do, like a Los Angeles Lakers, like a Boston Celtics, man. People were saying that Boston game on last week, it was like half and half. And that's crazy to me, because I know Boston's always had a big following, but for the oldest team in the Valley to not have enough true presence from the fan base there and let it get overtaken, it's disappointing. It's not surprising, because we've seen it from the Cardinals for the past 5 years. We've seen it from the Diamondbacks for a very long time too. So that's just what it is here in the Valley, man.
Yeah, and I hate to keep, you're right, Mike. You are right, and I hate to keep bringing this up because, as you guys know, Mike, you bring up the transplant nature. People's parents raise them to be Packers fans or Patriots fans or Steelers fans. And so I was, I guess, lucky in the regard that Pittsburgh doesn't have a basketball team. So I got to be a Suns fan. As soon as I was a sports fan, I was a Suns fan. But it does suck, because it seems like so many fair weather fans have their primary team, like the Celtics probably. So all the other Suns games they go to throughout the years, they're going to root for the Suns. They live here. They want to be part of the environment. But then when their Celtics roll into town, they flip on the Jason Tatum jersey and they're going to the Suns game as a Celtics fan. And we do see that across all the sports. And I do agree, though, it is disappointing. You would hope that the Suns would have a bit stronger of a presence, but it is what it is. But as I sit here and we reminisce about the good old days of 2 years ago, when the environment in the stadium felt like more like maybe we did have a bit of an advantage. We kind of touched on, I don't know if we touched on it, but it got my juices flowing thinking about this, on how none of us are sounding like we're riding very high on this team right now. We're sounding real doom and gloom. Niko says we're going to lose every game in that backstretch, which is a real possibility, and that fucking sucks. That's crazy. But so it's got me thinking, I got to ask the hypothetical here. If we could rewind a little bit, just back through time, and then fast forward back to today and change some things, would we be better off if we had DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul on this roster right now instead of Yusuf Nurkic, help me out here, Bradley Beal, and everyone else that kind of sprouted from that? I'm not saying they wouldn't have made some other piece moves here, but as far as the pieces involved in that trade, would we be better off right now? Guys, I'm kind of leaning towards maybe. Having a point guard, even if it is banged up, injured ass Chris Paul, I'm kind of leaning towards maybe.
Okay, I'm going to go absolutely not. And the only reason I say absolutely not is because Yusuf Nurkic has removed his jockstrap and handed it to DeAndre Ayton and said, hold this and let me show you how a center plays basketball.
Yes.
Like, the only reason. Otherwise, I'm kind of with you. The idea that we don't have a point guard, even if it is, old haggard-ass Chris, State Farm Paul, like, I don't know. It's a really interesting thing to look back on now, because there's an argument both ways. I think there is an argument that we were better off with Chris Paul and Ayton. I also think, Yusuf Nurkic might be the only saving grace in this, but that's the only reason it's a better deal for us today, personally.
Well, so great point. You could even split it up, though, because those deals weren't tied together. So even if the Nurkic Ayton trade goes through, do you think we'd be better off with Chris Paul versus Bradley Beal?
Oh, 1,000%. Sorry, Bradley, but 1,000%. I think Chris Paul still has seen the court more than Bradley Beal has this year. So,
but it's been maybe 6 more games, right?
This is true.
Because he's missed a lot of time this year with injury as well. Chris, man, that's why you lead the ship, because you ask the right hypotheticals. And that's one that kind of puts my brain in a pickle, to be honest with you. Because if you asked me that before the season, obviously I'm saying no. The time frame when it comes down to Chris Paul, we knew it was up. We knew what we were getting from him in the playoffs, which was injuries and the inability to be there for the team. And Bradley Beal is still unknown. A little bit younger, obviously, it's 30 years old, but that's normally when guys are in their prime. Did we know he was going to be this injured this entire season? No, I don't think so, but there were worries, obviously, from his past kind of 5-year track record. In regard to where they stand right now, I think I'm still going with Bradley Beal, because I know this team. The biggest issue with this team is the point guard position. I get that. But I still don't know if Chris Paul really would have fit properly with this entire unit, right? Maybe if it was just Yusuf Nurkic and you traded out DeAndre Ayton and you kept Chris Paul in there, could be a different scenario. But it's just tough. I still think I'm going Bradley Beal because of his athleticism. He is a change of pace kind of guy, but I'm the experiment with them running the show is just not working, and it needs to be corrected next season. That's for sure. But 100% Yusuf over DeAndre Ayton all day long. I'm pretty sure Devin Booker came out and said, "What's the difference in big man play over this past year?" And he said IQ. That's a shot right there, guys. Like, that's literally saying my old big man was lost in the clouds. He was lost in the
No, he didn't.
Cloud. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And Yusuf fits a role, and he loves it, and he's going after that role, man. It's been awesome to see. There were times where DeAndre Ayton would put up 25 and 14, very few and far between. We see the same from Yusuf Nurkic, but now it seems like over the past 20 games, it's 15 boards a night minimum and 6 assists. And that's just nothing that we could ever count on from DeAndre Ayton. So I'm with Niko, man. Yusuf all day is the saving grace for what happened in that trade as well. But yeah, I think I'm still going Beal over Paul. But I think that one's almost kind of a toss-up.
That one is tough. I mean, I think that's just the simple fact is like we can look back with rose-tinted glasses at the glory days, and the good news is though that we can't undo any of the past and we can't look back. We have to just move forward with what we have now. But with the perspective of understanding that Chris Paul is a 38, soon to be 39-year-old guard in this league who has had an extensive injury history, including while he was a member of this Phoenix Suns team. Yes, Bradley Beal has been banged up, has an extensive injury history of his own, right? But he is much younger. He's 30, going to be 31 just shortly after Chris Paul turns 39. Their birthdays are about a month apart. But regardless, I think you guys have swayed me. I didn't know where I was going to land on this, and like I said, rose-tinted glasses, right? And looking at our lack of point guard play and how much that type of player, Chris Paul 3 years ago would have helped us now. Chris Paul today, I don't know if he would have helped us as much. So I think we got to work with what we got. This might not be the season, guys. It might not be this season. But the good news is we do still have our big three for next season, right?
It might not. Chris, this ain't the season. Like, I'll just tell you. It's not the season. But that's okay. So
yeah,
the window was 2 years, right? We're still in the win now window, but I think next year is the drop dead date for Kevin Durant, especially with how heavy they are playing him this year. Man, I hope that he can stay healthy throughout the rest of this season. To be honest with you guys, almost 38 minutes. It's like it's the largest amount of minutes he's played in his career since like 2012. So, yeah, that's crazy, but. The one thing that I was thinking about, and this will be my last point as well, when I was opening the door today, I was like, man, how come we can't have as much confidence as when the Boston Celtics kind of first put together their big three of Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett, right? And they got it done almost immediately. Same with Miami. They lost the first year with LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh. But then they got it done 2 years in a row, and we're in the finals every time. You know why? Because pretty much all those guys were in their primes together, especially Miami. We're asking almost 36-year-old Kevin Durant to average 35 points a night for us to win all of these games and win series. We're asking a Bradley Beal, who hasn't played 50 games in 6 seasons, to run the ship and be the CP3, right? We're asking Devin Booker to take a next level step, and he's been injured this year and just hasn't been able to do it, unfortunately. So after some more time together, some more pieces moved around, I'm going to still be very confident in next year, but this ain't the year. That's just what it is.
You might not be wrong. Honestly, you might not be, but it is all in for this year or next year. But you got my juices flowing once again, Mike, and I'll ask Niko this question. Is it possible, I guess, that even though they're playing Kevin Durant so many minutes, is that they're just buying their time to put an all-out like push, just like their plan is just make the playoffs, and then we'll exert all of our energy once we're into the playoffs. So like the regular season, drop a few games, it's not the end of the world.
They better not be. We are running out of time for us to be playing shenaniganry tug of war like this. Put your players in, put the gas to the floor, and go. Like we have no time left to be dicking around. I really hope that's not the scenario, because if that's the case, then this team does not have a championship mindset. Like, we need to go all the time. I understand that the NBA season's long and you're not going to get 110% in the beginning of the season as you will at the end, but we're at the end of the season now. We need to give 110%. We don't have time to take a night off because we're playing Charlotte or Atlanta. We gotta play. Yeah, if I ever found that out, I would be very upset as a Suns fan, just very upset.
Yeah, it seems maybe a bit conspiratorial, and I think that gets a bit debunked just by the fact, like Mike said, that Kevin Durant is playing so many minutes, so many more than he's played in recent history. And thank God he stayed healthy. I mean, despite Booker and Beal being in and out of the lineup, Durant has been pretty solid for us.
Doesn't that worry you come playoff time, though? Like, I mean, with as many minutes as we put in the regular season, and he's operating on a repaired ACL. Like, I don't know how much you want to push that body. It's scary to think about because we could flame out in the play-in, Kevin Durant injury, and then lose him for next season. And then where are we? We're the Jets, basically.
Yeah, that's a real possibility because if Durant, that's the biggest thing, right? Is Book and Beal are somewhat interchangeable, right? We can roll out another guard with them and still be kind of fine. But if you lose Durant, you're losing your best forward. And how well are we equipped to fill in for even just a limited period of time his role there? It seems like despite not having a point guard, somehow we're still a little bit guard heavy, like small forwards and guards. So would Grayson Allen can't play the 4. I mean, obviously Royce O'Neal maybe could play. I think he's listed as being able to flex into the 4, but he's again only like 6'7" or something like that, which I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. I just hope that, and we all hope that they can get it together, win some of these challenging games, win the games that you're expected to win, and then build that momentum. Not be in the play-in tournament. I think goal right now is just not be in the play-in tournament. Even if it's, what would that be, the 6th seed? Even if you're the 6th seed, just don't be in the play-in tournament, for the love of God. But Phoenix Suns, man, we're going to keep you updated. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Valley Sports Plug. We do a recap every 2 weeks of the Phoenix Suns action. Mike and I here, we keep it coming at you. It's about a 10, 15-minute video just highlighting the last 2 weeks of action. We've done that last season and now this season. And potential playoff action. We do an update of every single playoff game. So if you didn't get a chance to see it, or you just want to relive the moment and hear us bitch about it or celebrate about it, make sure you tune in. But guys, we are also here to talk about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL overall. This is a very exciting time. Honestly, kind of crazy. And as far as the NFL schedule goes, this might be my favorite time of the year, is the off-season moves. Like, I love playing 2K and Madden and just doing like the GM work, the signings, the trades, the draft work. Like, I'm a nerd like that, I guess. I was telling Sabrina yesterday, like, I'm a big stats guy. Like, I just love stats so fucking much. If I could like Google random stats about my life, or like how many times have Mike and I dapped each other up, and it's like, you and Mike have dapped each other up 4,025 times. But regardless, this is my favorite time of year. I love the offseason for the NFL, and we've seen a ton of moves already. I mean, just the Cardinals alone, they made a trade with the Falcons. They shipped out Rondale Moore and got Desmond Ridder. They signed defensive tackle Justin Jones. They got cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting and a whole bunch of others. Around the league, we saw Kirk Cousins sign with the Atlanta Falcons. Derrick Henry signed with the Baltimore Ravens. Man, it seems like I said, teams have really hit the ground running. Mike, you got the graphic here. Do you want to go over some of these moves?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to ask Niko so far what his favorite move has been. But for me, love bringing in Sean Murphy-Bunting. Didn't have the best year last year with the Tennessee Titans, but has that championship level experience, winning one with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Really like adding DJ Dallas. You know, obviously the running back room is pretty full right now with Michael Carter and Amar DiMercado, and obviously the big boy James Conner. But he's going to be a big, big guy on special teams. Maybe able to kind of spell in between him and Greg Dortch as kick and punt returner. That's another huge one, guys. Just absolutely had to bring back the Dortcher chamber. He's a difference maker. He makes plays. When you find those kind of guys, doesn't matter where they were drafted, you got to keep them on their roster. And the tender offer was beautiful. Love bringing him back. Another huge one, which I think has big, big draft implications for this team, was bringing in Bengals offensive tackle Jonah Williams after the release of DJ Humphries. Obviously, kind of going into last season, I think everybody really knew that it was DJ's last year, and then it was tough to see him go down at the end of the year with that ACL. But Jonah Williams, former 11th overall pick out of Alabama, played in a Super Bowl, started in an AFC championship well, technically 2 AFC championships. And he's going to come in, and it sounds like people were unsure if he would fit into the left tackle because that's where he primarily played, and switched over to right tackle last year when the Bengals brought in Orlando Brown. But I think they're going to go with Paris Johnson over at that left tackle and get him into the position that they drafted him for, to be your franchise offensive lineman. But, you know, he does have some weaknesses, but it helps you pivot what you're going to do with this draft. And you know what that means? It's time for Marvin, baby. It's time for Marvin. The moves that have been made so far have been very, very impressive by the Arizona Cardinals to continue to build out this team, bring in at least 5 starters, you know, a lot on this defensive side as well, and make sure that you're set up for success to get Marvin Harrison Jr. Because especially from the other moves that the teams in front of them have been making, it's looking like it's going to happen.
It is a great time to be a Cardinals fan. We're at the beginning of the season. Nothing has happened. We haven't played any games. The optimism is thick in the air. It's wonderful. And we're making competent signings. This is a team has a history of making non-competent fucking signings. I'm looking at Mac Wilson on this list, who I think is going to be an absolute stud on this defense. An absolute dog, 100%. I'm with Mike, though. Sean Murphy-Bunting, I think, is a huge addition to this defense. Our corners have been rough for, well, pretty much since we lost Patrick Peterson. So, I mean, I don't know. We really haven't had a decent secondary outside of our safeties in a while. So them actually making a move to bring in a guy who has experience, I like that. But most of all, this one on the bottom here, traded wide receiver Rondale Moore to Atlanta for Desmond Ridder. I don't give a rat's ass about Desmond Ridder. But I like that we said we're going to get Rondale Moore out of here. This was a cute little, pawn in the Kingsbury scheme of let's get this 5'5" speedy wide receiver and try to get him the ball in open space. That didn't work. Get him the hell out of town. And then that opens up a receiver spot for, well, probably one of the most generational talents that the wide receiving core has seen in the draft in quite some time. Give me all of Marvin Harrison.
Well, I wholly expect them to get Marvin Harrison now. I don't know if you guys saw this. There's breaking news. Adam Schefter has just reported that Marquise Hollywood Brown is expected to sign with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes!
Yeah. Adios. Bye-bye.
He will not be returning to the Cardinals to play with his boy Kyler. He's shipping out. So that's 2 wide receiver spots now. So we need someone for Kyler to throw the ball to. Obviously, he's got McBride right now. I love Trey McBride. I fully expect him to break out even more next season. But now, man, you got Dortch. And if you get Dortch, Marvin Harrison Jr., McBride, what's the next domino to fall? Is it a trade? We have a lot of picks stockpiled. Is it a signing? I don't know how many free agent wide receivers. I was talking to Tallman Jr., Mr. T Jr., not VSP Tallman, Mr. T Jr., another Valley Sports Plug contributor. I was talking to him today. He thinks the Cardinals should try and trade for T Higgins, who has been reported to want out of Cincinnati. He's a 6'4" wide receiver. So if you get a tall-ass Marvin Harrison and a 6'4" T Higgins to go along with the speedy Greg Dortch, I like that a lot. I like that a lot, Mike.
So, I was seeing, I'm not sure if it was Mac Wilson who was kind of going on Twitter, and it sounds like he's a pretty good follow. So if you're a Cardinals fan, make sure you're jumping on that train right now. But I think he was calling out for one of his old buddies, Mike Williams from the Los Angeles Chargers as well, who I think is a free agent. And they were saying, hey, come to the desert, come join in. Now, I will be honest with you. I think I would prefer T Higgins over Mike Williams at this point. Mike Williams has been very, very injury prone over the past 3 seasons. And it sounds like I think T Higgins got the franchise tag, right? So they're on a rocky road right now. So that's a possibility. Got a lot of trade capital at this point with the amount of picks. I don't think the Cardinals want to go in and make all 13 or 14 of those picks that they have this year. It's just not the right decision. Even though Monty Ossenfort has come out and said, we're going to build the foundation of this team through the draft. And that works for me, guys. Like, I'm totally okay with that. I know there were a lot of Cardinals fans who were wondering, well, where's all these splash moves? Like, how come we're not signing 10, 13-year vet, big name guy? Well, it's because we're building this team young and we're building this team out. We're not going to throw big money at these old dudes who might contribute for 14 games and then be out the door next year. Like, we are in the rebuild right now. So I like that. T. Higgins, yeah, that would work for me.
Yeah, I'd say T. Higgins is the primary suspect. Mike Williams is a good shout. I think we just need somebody who's a vet in that receiving room now. I don't even think it has to be someone who's going to come in and produce majorly, but like I think we need a vet in there because it's going to be a young room now. I mean, you're looking at Dortch and you're looking at Harrison Jr. and you're looking at Trey McBride, and you're looking at a guy like guys that don't have a lot of NFL experience. So it would be nice to get like a certain. I don't know who it would be. I would love for the Cardinals to trade for T. Higgins. That's me operating with the Cardinals on Madden, though. I don't see it happening. I would just like to see a vet in some way, shape, or form inside that room to help, especially more than anything, Marvin Harrison Jr., who is probably going to be one of the better receiving prospects we've seen since, I don't know, some dude out of Pittsburgh named Larry Fitzgerald. So I don't know. It's I'm getting uberly hyped on the Marvin Harrison train. I have been for a year, but now that we're getting closer, I'm salivating. I'm like getting super pumped up about it. So I think it needs one vet. I agree with Mike. I love the fact that we're building this team with young football players that we want to be here. This isn't like, okay, let's go get Christian Wilkinson for $100 million. This is less than $100 million on our screen in front of us. And that's, there's like 7 names here. So they're going out, they're using their money wisely. They're getting groups of guys to try and rebuild this organization. It's about goddamn time. I'm just so happy that the Cardinals are making competent moves like this.
And Niko, you make a great point when it comes down to the veteran presence. It's going to be imperative to bring somebody into that wide receiver room that's a vet. I think it's the same reason why we brought in Sean Murphy-Bunting, because you look at this cornerback room right now, and it's super young with Keitrell Clark and Garrett Williams and Sterling Thomas V. Like, you need to have somebody who's been there and done that in the room, right? And yes, we want to give opportunities to these young guys, but you got to have those guys to lead the way. So I think it's just only a matter of time, whether it's within the next couple of weeks before the draft, that they make another move, they make another trade like they did today for Desmond Ridder to bring in that veteran, or if it happens on draft day. The one beautiful thing about this front office right now is that they're looking at all the pieces, and it seems like they're understanding what the future is and what they need to make sure that is there to help these young guys grow, because they're giving all the opportunities to the young guys, but they're making sure Kaiser White lead the way for the linebackers, right? Like, that's just what Monty Ossenfort has basically set forward for this team in his short time so far. And I'm in love with all of it, guys. I'm in love with all of it.
I will say, as far as Ridder goes, I like him a lot more as the backup than Clayton Tune. I mean, short sample size, but man, Clayton Tune was not the answer at the backup quarterback position. We, of course, had the who was it? I literally just had it. The Josh Dobbs experiment. That was great. The stylings of Josh Dobbs, the quarterback stylings, and he obviously went on Minnesota, whatever. But Kyler Murray, like, I really hope that we don't see Desmond Ridder at all next season, right? Like, you want Kyler to play a full 17-game season, absolutely kill it. Guys, I know the draft is a little ways away, and I do want to keep talking about some of these signings in the NFL more broadly. But while we're talking about the Cardinals, I'm just sitting here thinking and hearing you guys talk. Like, Niko, you're already writing Marvin Harrison Jr. onto the roster. Like, it seems like a foregone conclusion, especially today. We saw the Commanders trading Sam Howell to the Seattle Seahawks, which, I mean, almost assuredly paves the way for them to be drafting a quarterback with their number 2 pick. A lot of people think it's going to be Jaden Daniels with Caleb Williams going first. And then you got Drake May there at number 3 for the Patriots, right for the taking. But I think the lingering factor that keeps, I think, holding this up for me is the Justin Fields situation. Like, what if the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams number 1 overall? They have to get rid of Justin Fields. Now, who's going to take it? What are they going to get for him? And if one of these other teams, if the Commanders or the Patriots take Justin Fields, then that means they're all in on him, and they might not have a need for a quarterback. Then do they trade their pick? I think there's just so many questions to be asked, and I would love nothing more than to just write Marvin Harrison Jr. in at that number 4 position. But I think there's a real possibility that we have to be prepared for, where one of these teams does trade for a Justin Fields or surprises us, trades for another quarterback, and then they take Marvin Harrison with either the 2nd or 3rd pick. I worry. I mean, is that, Mike, I guess to ask you just straight up, is that a concern of you?
Yeah, it's an unknown. Obviously, I think if the Cardinals are sitting at 3, I'd be a lot more comfortable, because thankfully, Jaden Daniels has kind of played himself into one of these best quarterback positions. So then the top 3 do look like are all going to go quarterbacks, right? I mean, you also have to remember New England let Mac Jones go too. So they're going to be looking for a quarterback. It just seems like the cards are literally falling to the Cardinals right now, because those teams are in dire need of quarterback play at this point. Like, the one thing that I could see too is, say they do go with Justin Fields and then they want to move out. Like, do you think the Patriots are going to pay that pretty penny to move up 2 positions to get Caleb Williams? And then the Bears are going to slide back into 3rd. Like, the Bears still have so many more problems. They got to do what the Cardinals did and really stockpile some picks and build out this roster. Like, they're not ready to take on just a wide receiver like that. Whereas I feel like the Cardinals are in a prime position with Kyler Murray coming back from his ACL injury and having a solid second half of the year. So, there's always a creep of doubt, but I think the way that these things are falling is, even if the Bears trade that pick, it's going to end up going to somebody like Minnesota or somebody else who's maybe top 10, but behind the Cardinals. So Chicago's not going to be able to hop up if they do. And the Commanders and the Patriots are in dire need of a quarterback right now. So I think it's still going to be top 3, and then it's our pick at that point.
I've spent some time in Chicago. There is one organization that is crazy enough to do this, and I do believe it is Chicago. I think there's a chance that they keep Justin Fields and draft Caleb number 1 and hold Fields. No, I think that they draft. I think that there's every chance in the world that leaving the NFL draft, you have Justin Fields and Caleb Williams on the same roster, which is
that took a turn I was not expecting. Finish what you were saying.
I just think that if you're the Bears can still trade him right away, or with the Justin Jefferson situation or the T. Higgins situation, there's things that are still in the works where they can go get like a decent player and trade Fields in the long run. I don't know where the fuck Justin Fields is going to go at this point. This is where I'm at. Minnesota is like the only option.
Yeah, and it seems like some of the other options are drying up quick. Mike has up here, like, obviously that Sam Howell trade, the Seahawks are probably not going to be in the market for that. There was a lot of, I obviously follow the Steelers pretty closely. There was rumors of the Steelers maybe trying to be in the market for Justin Fields, but now they have Russell Wilson. Okay, Niko, I guess I got to ask you then. You say they're crazy enough to do that. Would they be crazy enough to keep Justin Fields and not draft Caleb Williams?
I think that's a mistake, personally. I'm not like super high on Caleb Williams like everybody else seems to be. I don't think he's this quarterback incarnate that like the media has made him out to be. I frankly don't even know if he's better than Justin Fields. And given the Bears are a lot like the Cardinals in the fact that like they're in this time period where a prospect goes into that organization and then they just rot from the excess toxicity of that organization, and you end up losing a good prospect. And then like 4 years later, when you trade him, it's Garrison Hurst and the Niners all over again. Like I just, I don't see a world where Justin Fields is a Bear at the beginning of the season. I do see a world where they draft Williams and keep Fields, but I think Fields is gone before the season starts.
Yeah, it's all plausible, right? Anything could happen. I think the market for Fields driving up, man, that makes me anxious, and I'm just going to continue to be nervous. And Mike, like you said, having the third draft spot would be a lot better. Having the fourth isn't the end of the world, though, when there are so many good quarterbacks in this draft. But there are also a lot of good wide receivers in this draft. Mike, say, hypothetically, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes second or third or first. Who knows? He's not available for us there at 4, and we still hold the fourth pick when it comes around. Are you looking at taking Joe Alt out of Notre Dame, the OT, or there's also a lot of talented wide receivers in this draft? Malik Neighbors out of LSU, Brian Thomas Jr. also out of LSU. Do you look at Malik Neighbors because of our wide receiver need now, or do you take best available and maybe that's Joe Alt?
So first, I got to touch on Joe Alt. I think the signing of Jonah Williams completely pivots the need to draft Joe Alt or draft an offensive lineman with the 4th overall pick. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is not there at 4, the Arizona Cardinals are going to trade that pick because they're not ready to take Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors that high. It is a very, very good wide receiver draft class. That's correct. But they're going to pivot. They're going to trade that pick, move back, probably still within the top 10, and then maybe they can take Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze. So, the big thing with the signing of Jonah Williams, because you just can't go into next season with 2 young tackles, right? Like Paris Johnson did everything he needed to, proved to be a top 10 pick last year, played every single snap, is a superstar in the making, we hope, and really started his career right off on the right foot. But you can't go and draft another guy top 5 and say, Kyler Murray on your reconstructed knee, this is how we're going to protect you with these 2 super young guys. Like Jonah Williams has been there. He has some flaws, yes, but he's been to the Super Bowl. He played, I think, all 1,086 offensive line snaps for the Bengals last year, and he is just available. Like he doesn't really get hurt, right? I'm knocking on some wood. Hopefully, I didn't put a curse on him right there. But you pivot, so then you can look at maybe with the 27th pick, you can go for another tackle or an inside guard. I know we brought 3 guys back, but you want to make sure you have depth there, or you pivot, take somebody day 2. 3rd round, something like that. So I think with what the moves they've already made has taken Joe Alt or some of these other top guards or tackles off the table for the Cardinals. And also now with Hollywood Brown leaving, right? We were crossing our fingers that maybe he would give a hometown discount, even though, come on, guys, we always knew he wasn't going to do that. It's time to get a big name wide receiver in here, and his name is Marvin Harrison Jr. Here's the other thing too, Chris. Here's a question back to you. What if it does get to the point where they think that Chicago moves back, swaps with the 3rd pick with the Patriots, and it sounds like they're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr.? Do you think Monty Austin-Fort is making a call and saying, "Hey, here's the 4th pick, and here's 2/3 for next year," or something like that, so we can get our guy? I think it's all in the basket. The eggs are all in the Marvin basket right now.
That's a great question. That's going the other way. I think that's what it needs to be, right? Like no matter if you're up or down, left or right, your goal needs to be to get Marvin Harrison Jr., a generational talent. Obviously, like you said, Niko, a lot of comparisons to that type of player being equivalent to a Larry Fitzgerald, and how fitting that just he's been 1 year removed from this team that we get another guy like that. If you can have a tandem of Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. for the foreseeable future, the future looks very, very bright, especially when you can appreciate that Kyler Murray is going to start to be paid under his new big contract, and that's going to eat up a big, big chunk of the salary cap. So having Marvin Harrison Jr., although a high draft pick does get a pretty significant salary, it's nowhere near what Marvin Harrison will be commanding 5 years in or whatever, whenever, rookies become eligible for their first contract. I think you get a 5th-year option, and then on their 6th year, they become a free agent. But regardless, Mike, to answer your question, it has to be that, right? I think that was your question. It has to be all in for Marvin Harrison Jr. And if that revolves around trading up, that's the good news. And I don't know who I was talking to, maybe my brother, but we have stockpiled so many picks now in that last draft to where, maybe you give them a couple thirds this year, next year, a second even. I don't know what it would take, but you trade up and you get the guy that you want to get. You bring up a great point in like the outside tackle. Joe Alt, you don't need him anymore. So if for some reason someone else drafts Marvin Harrison Jr., you can't get him. Yeah, you trade down. And so I guess, Niko, along those lines, then, would you have your eyes more so on Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze?
I feel like we just did Malik Neighbors. I feel like his name was Hollywood Brown, and I feel like it didn't turn out well. Give me Rome Odunze all day. I mean, I may be biased because I watched him in the Pac-12, but the dude is electric, and he's a big body. I don't think people realize how big he is. The dude's a big dude. I don't want to think anything outside of a Marvin Harrison Jr. world. But if for some reason draft day comes, we all get dropped on our head, and all of a sudden Marvin Harrison is off the board, Rome Odunze is the one you got to go get, and it's going to be trading back into like the 8th spot or something like that to get him. But I don't think it's a question in the receiving corps, for me at least. The Malik Neighbors type of receivers never seem to do well in our offense, even if we have the scheme for them. So I don't know, and it just could be. I could be poisoned by the apple that is Hollywood, where I thought that was going to turn out really, really well, and that was going to be a great connection because finally we paired Kyler with one of his boys, and all I ever wanted was him and like CD Lamb together, and this was like a pseudo version of like Kyler and CD together, and then it just. So yeah, I'll take Rome Odunze.
Well, and here's the other thing too, with the short wide receiver. It has been a decade of us trying to bring in these short guys, and it's not working. Like John Brown had the one good year in 2015 and then was done 2 seasons later. Then you got Andy Isabella. Then you got Rondale Moore. Then you got J.J. Nelson. All of these short dudes who were supposed to be these off-the-top kind of guys, and then we would run routes for them where we're throwing jump balls to them because they're barely beating these cornerbacks. Like, they were never put in the right situation. And with Malik Neighbors, I don't think you can spend a top 5 pick and say, hey, go be my number 1 at what, 5'10", if that, no more, dude, no more. You do have to have the change of pace. You do have to have those speed guys, and you got it in Greg Dortch. Let's try something different. Let's have some 2 big boys out on the outside in Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr., both guys who are over 6'3". Well, it might work. Good Lord. Who could think that throwing a jump ball to 6'3" guys might actually be successful in the NFL? Let's try it.
It's like I think that taller wide receivers are more conducive to Kyler Murray, right? Because he's a little bit of a shorter guy. And then that was kind of the funny thing when DeAndre Hopkins was here, is it was kind of like, oh, fuck it. Hopkins is down there somewhere. Just chuck it up. So you kind of want those wide receivers that can go up and get it. And so I agree. Rome Odunze at 6'3" is a much more appealing prospect than Malik Neighbors at 6 foot, regardless of their skill or athleticism. I just think, height talks, especially with the wide receiver position. So I'd agree. But at the end of the day, let's not even think about that. Let's put it out of our minds. We're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. We're going to speak it into existence. We're going to make it happen. Oh, man, it's going to be crazy. It's just we've only scratched the surface. I expect that over the next couple of days, there will be some more moves made. Who knows? Some trades leading up to the draft. Obviously, trades happen on draft day. And we'll just have to see. That's coming up, I think, end of April there. But guys, we're winding down here. We've been about a little over an hour into this stream here. What do you think, though? Do you think the Cardinals are going to make any more splash signings, or do you think that they've kind of made their moves and that it's kind of just all draft positioning from here?
I think we got two big signings. I think we have 2 vet signings coming. I don't know what, I don't know who, but I think that there's 2 that we're going to go, oh, okay. Didn't expect that, but okay. I don't think it's going to be super like shattering. I don't think it's going to be like, you remember when we got JJ Watt and JJ's like sitting there in his Cardinals hat. Everybody's like super pumped about it. Like, can't believe the Cardinals finally went out and made a splash signing. I don't think it's going to be like that. But I do think that we're going to pull somebody where we go, I know that name. I know that player. A couple years past his prime. But we'll take him. And that could be a Mike Williams, who's to say. But I do think that I think there's probably 2 splash signings left. I think there's probably 6 where we go, I have to research that dude. But I think that there's 2 splash signings left, yeah.
I could see that. Yeah, I got to pull out the Google machine real quick to see he played on the Browns last year? Oh, okay. All right. I'm kind of aligned with Niko. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of crazy splashes before the NFL draft. I think that's when it's going to happen. They're going to make some draft day moves. Could move back, could move up. They just have so much capital. They're going to be able to make some trades for some teams that are really just some young guys and making some picks. And we might be able to get some more veterans out of that too that can be contributors. So the Cardinals are in a great spot right now, man. And I think they did what they needed to do with the free agency opening up right now.
Yeah, they're checking a lot of boxes just right off the top. And like I said, I think the draft is going to reveal a lot of what, how this team is going to proceed forward, especially depending on whether we get Marvin Harrison Jr. or not. But guys, as we kind of wind down here, there is one more Valley team I want to talk about, and that is the Arizona Diamondbacks. As I mentioned at the top of the show, they're 2 weeks away from opening day. They're going to be playing the Colorado Rockies on Thursday, March 28th. So even just this month, like literally 14 days from now, they're taking on the Rockies opening day. I've been seeing a lot of people really bummed about their performance so far in Cactus League. They're 7-13. Guys, it's spring training. Like, I'm not worried about it. I'm really not worried about it at all. They're coming off a World Series run. Obviously, spring training is the time for you to try different things, play some different guys. Mike, are you worried at all about the Dbacks?
No. No. Because spring is where you got to take a look at your minor leaguers and see who needs to be where and get ready for September call-ups, right? These guys are pacing themselves. We already know that we have the primary core coming back from last year and some new guys coming in as well. So, dude, when it comes down to a season being 162 games, there is some grace period to start an MLB season. It's not like the NBA where, 30 games in, the big 3 have only played 3 games together. Oh, shit. Like, you can have the first month and a half go by and you might go 500, but you'll still be in a good spot to when June rolls around. Then you could get hot, win 10, 11 in a row. And then before you know it, we're only 5.5 games back from fucking Los Angeles Dodgers. So it's how it is right now. But very confident in this team and where they're going to be. I know the pitching has been a little bit up and down, but you also have to remember some of these guys are getting back into the fold as well, like Tommy Henry. And, like what Suarez has been doing over at third base. So lots of confidence going into April. And I can't believe that we're only 2 weeks away. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And gearing up for this run is what I think excites me the most is like they've brought back pretty much their entire core. All the big faces, the big names, the guys who really were behind that playoff push and World Series run are coming back. And I really like some of the additions they've made too. I think one of the quiet ones that I really like is them adding Elvis Andrus. He's a veteran shortstop, 35 years old. He's on a AAA contract. But that's a guy where, like, when you think about having Perdomo, Jordan Lawler, and now Andrus as well, if Lawler's not super ready to go, you could bring up a veteran guy like him who, honestly, you could put him on third base also if push comes to shove. Like, Niko, that move specifically, I see you nodding your head over there. You like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a vet. That's a vet with playoff experience, right? If I'm not mistaken, Elvis Andrus has been around a little bit. Pretty sure in Texas and Seattle and Chicago. I mean, I don't know. I think you have such a young group of shortstops and third baseman that, like, why not? Why not bring that dude in? Because there might be a time where Jordan Lawler goes on a 0 for, God, let's hope not, but 20 streak or something like that. And he's young and he gets the yips and he doesn't know how to get out of it and can't get out of it. Bring in Elvis Andrus. At least you have a defensive player. He may not swing the bat like he used to. I don't ever think his bat was super lethal, but like he could get on base. But he's got a glove, man, and the dude can play, I'm pretty sure, third, short, and second. I'm pretty sure he can play just about anywhere in the infield. So I do like it. Any time that you can add a vet that still has a little bit of juice in the tank and bring it into a young locker room like this, I'm totally with it. I think it's a great signing.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he hit 26 home runs in 2022, just a couple of years ago. So maybe he still has a little bit of life in that bat, and having that flexibility of bringing him up and sending him down and starting him at the AAA level. I think just having him in the wings, like worst case scenario, right? If Perdomo gets injured and Lawler's not ready to go, you can lean on a guy like Andrus to at least fill in that role in the meantime. I don't know, Mike. I think this Diamondbacks team is doing it right. I think not stressing about the spring training is where we're at. And I did see a lot, like I said, I saw a lot of people online saying, oh no, we're losing spring training games. But then most of the response to that was calm down. It's just spring training. Like once the season starts, we'll be good. And starting with Colorado is just an added bonus, right?
Yeah. That's how you get off to a great start for a season, is spanking some Rocky ass, man. I'm very, very excited. That's almost like getting worried about what's happening for the outcomes in spring training games was like when the Phoenix Suns lost to the New Zealand Breakers or the Adelaide 67ers, whatever the hell. Like, why are we worrying about those kind of things? There's bigger fish to fry at the end of the day. This is literal practice games, man. It's practice games. They're trying new things. The biggest thing is that they're getting work done together, and they're going to be ready to come rolling out once April comes around. So everybody pump the brakes, take a chill pill. We're going to be just fine. And it's going to be a fun season. That's for sure.
I haven't been more excited for a baseball season in a long, long, long ass time. I was excited for last season, but after everything they accomplished, even more excited for this year. We're rolling right into primetime sports season, guys. We got March Madness right around the corner, the NFL draft and the continued free agency, the NBA playoffs and finals coming up in the coming months. So expect plenty of content to be coming from Valley Sports Plug. Of course, we're going to keep you updated. We do recaps of the Diamondbacks as well as the Suns. So make sure you tune in, keep a lookout, and subscribe right here on YouTube so you can stay up to date. But before we get out of here, Niko, I got to thank you so much for filling in for VSP Tallman. Always love when we can have you on and chat with us about the Valley sports and the overall sports landscape in the country right now. But man, I want to give you the floor. Is there anything you got to say, get off your chest?
Not really. I'm currently installing WWE 2K24, and your boy is super pumped about this. So I'm going to get into that tonight. Got a little staycation with the wife this weekend. It's about to be some good times. So I am excited for March Madness, and I believe the Final Four is in the Valley this year. if I'm not mistaken. So I think we should do a little VSP at the Madness.
I like it. Mike, what do you think about that? And you got any final thoughts?
I love that. You know, the other thing that Niko has to do too, I think, remember you were saying something about basketball bets. Niko, what did you call it? I can't remember. You got to remind me.
I call it Niko's Nice Nets.
Niko's Nice Nets. Hopefully we can get that rolling for the NBA playoffs. Probably maybe sprinkle in some stuff for March Madness too. Yeah, that's the big thing, man. As much as we talk about how kind of fair weather for our pro sports teams out here in Arizona, it's a great place to be a sports fan in general because the market is so huge and all these awesome things keep coming. You know, just had the Super Bowl a couple years ago, got March Madness heading in right now, got the WNBA All-Star game coming here this summer, and we know that the Suns and Phoenix got named to have the big dance, the All-Star game in 2027. So all those things keep coming to the Valley. But I ain't got anything else tonight. Fellas, it's always a blast to talk Valley sports with y'all. Love what the Cardinals are doing right now. And need to blow out Charlotte tomorrow, Phoenix Suns. Just do it for me. If anything, do it for me. And then the Diamondbacks are right around the corner. It's going to be a fun couple of months, fellas. Chris, appreciate you, man.
Hey, always a pleasure, Mike. You guys said it best. We don't have too much more. We don't have anything more for you guys right now. But make sure, like I said, like and subscribe at AZ_VSP on Instagram, X.com, and TikTok, and Valley Sports Plug on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you, Niko Woodruff, Valley Sports Plug contributor, my co-host, Mr. Michael Benjamin. I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you next time. Peace.